I'm not going to go on the air. And he said, why? He said, the last time I was on the air, there was a military coup. They made me lay down on the floor for 2 days with a gun to my head. So I'm going home. So now NTA could not provide any information for the country. So I called my radio station, Rhythm. I said, please stay on the air, open the phone lines, let us find out what's going on in the country. If there's a military coup, we need to know so we can react. He was on the air for 10 minutes and he went off the air. We were that way for maybe 5-6 hours. And then at about 7 o'clock, Governor Bola Tinubu and his lovely wife came on to the station. They sat beside me and he said he wanted to go on the air. And he did. And I remember what he said. He said, and I quote, all democratic institutions are in place. There isn't a military coup. There was a bomb blast in the Ikeja cantonment, but for 5 hours, we had no information, and it was my job to provide information to the country. Now, today I want to talk about destiny. Those of the people who were at the cantonment, when the bombs went off, if they ran to the canal, they died. If they ran in the opposite direction, they lived. Destiny. Now, 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from the villa. They said President Obasanjo was coming to Lagos. Could I get a reporter to meet him at the cantonment? At 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't get anybody. So I went to the cantonment to meet President Obasanjo. I held the microphone when he did the interview. At that point in time, I really thought the worst was over. Now, 6 months later, I was watching television, and I saw an advert. And the advert said, Michael Jackson was celebrating 30 years in the entertainment industry in Madison Square Garden, New York. I got my wife, my kids, and I said, okay, I've not seen Michael in a long time. I'm going to go to New York to watch Michael Jackson. At this time, this was
Michael Jackson, 30th anniversary celebration.
Michael Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana on August 29, 1958. Now, 30 years after his first solo single, Got to Be There, Michael always seems to be starting something.
September 10, 2011. On that day, Michael was performing at Madison Square Garden at 7 o'clock in the evening. At 2 o'clock, I had a meeting at the World Trade Center building on the 89th floor with a friend of mine called Albert. I went to see him. He said, Ben, I'm glad to see you. What are you doing here? I said, I came to see Michael, and my family was there. He said, okay, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, let's have breakfast on the 97th floor. I said, okay. That evening, before we got in, it was so difficult to get into the World Trade Center building. The security was something else. They had to take your picture, check your ID, search you. And I said to the guy, I said, why is it so difficult to get into the World Trade Center building? He said, 5 years ago, they tried to block this place. I said, okay. So, September 10th, Madison Square Garden, we saw Michael Jackson. It was a heck of a show. The next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. So I went downstairs to a restaurant to have my breakfast. And this is very unusual. There was a TV set at the restaurant. And I was having breakfast, I put on the TV, and I saw a plane hit the building. I had no idea why. I thought somebody made a mistake, and then I saw the second one. When it happened, I started walking down the streets in Manhattan. Shopkeepers were shutting down the stores, everybody was leaving. It's like I was relieving the bomb blast in Lagos 6 months earlier. I saw fear in the eyes of Americans. And I was thinking, for the past 100 years, Americans always fought wars in other people's country, never in their country. They were scared, shops were shutting down, everybody was leaving Manhattan. By 5 o'clock that day, Manhattan was deserted. I started walking towards the World Trade Center building. I couldn't see and I couldn't breathe. There was soot all over the place. It was a horrible day. By 7 o'clock, I went to Fifth Avenue. There was not a car, there was not a bicycle, there was nobody out there. It was deserted. I said, wow. We were stuck there for 5 days. 5 days. Now, for those of you who know Manhattan is an island, food is brought in every day. The only food we had was from fast food restaurants. All the restaurants were shut down. And it was deserted. 5 days later, we revalidated our tickets. I did not know Festus Keyamo at the time. I could have called him to get me a ticket to Nigeria. Anyway, 5 days later, we flew back to Nigeria. When we got back, I said to myself, Albert, my friend, let me call him and find out what happened. So I called Albert. I said, Albert, I'm sorry I haven't called you. I'm not sure if you're alive or dead. Tell me what happened. He said, at exactly 8:36, the plane hit his floor, the 89th floor. There were 2 tenants on the floor. He, an agent for cargo, and an insurance company. Everybody working for the insurance company died instantly. But nobody died on his floor. So his uncle and 6 of them, they were like, there's a fly here doing something, driving me nuts. Anyway, nobody died. But he said to me, the announcement on the building, they said, don't use the elevator. You couldn't anyway. And the building, the exit doors locked automatically. So you couldn't get out of the building. Nobody designed the World Trade Center building for a plane crash into the building. So people were stuck. So he said his uncle, at about 9:15, the janitor came from the 40th floor to the 89th floor and opened the door. When they opened the door, the 6 of them started coming downstairs. The janitor went from floor to floor, opening the door. Time was not on his side. Now, the topic today is called destiny. Remember, if you ran into the canal, you died. If you ran in the opposite direction, you lived. Anybody from the 90th floor to the 110th floor had 2 options. You died in the heat, or you jumped out of the window and had 3 seconds of fresh air and you died. You had no choice. If you're on the 89th floor and below, the announcement kept going on and said, stay in the office. Meanwhile, Albert's uncle kept walking downstairs. He was a 70-year-old guy with his friend that kept walking downstairs. Halfway through, the fire brigade with the hoses were going upstairs. And they said to them, please go back to your office. If you don't go back to your office, we cannot save lives. Go back to your office. Albert's uncle said, I'm from Egypt. I've been through 2 Arab-Israeli wars. I'm not going back to my office. He kept coming down. Some people, when they saw the fire brigade guys, went back to the office and waited. Some people called, the police said, wait. So, my question to you is this. Do you believe in destiny, or can you control your destiny? Albert's uncle came all the way down and kept walking and never looked back. Those who obeyed instructions didn't make it. Those who listened to the fire brigade guys didn't make it. Those who listened to the police didn't make it. All those who came downstairs but decided to hang around, everybody died. When the building collapsed, it took out everybody. Albert's uncle Because of his experience, his instincts, being an Egyptian, he walked for 1 kilometer. At 10:30, the building came down and 3,000 people died. The restaurant I was supposed to be on was about 107th floor. Okay, so I guess I was lucky. Michael Jackson kept me busy and I didn't go to the event. Now, if you believe in destiny, this is for you. If you believe you can control your destiny and you can decide if you live or die, if you're going to become successful or a failure in life, you can read what I've just said differently. I believe as a person, I can choose my destiny and I can control my destiny. But if you're on the 90th floor to the 110th floor, you can choose how you die, but you die regardless. I've told you 2 stories now. 42 years ago, I was at Solar Records. A man I had just met passed on.